right, guys, welcome back to the Who's Right podcast, and we're back with another episode of the Friends of the NL East. Remember to like and subscribe to the video, hit that notification button. But before we get started, hey guys, introduce yourselves.
What's up? I'm Victor. Just coming back to you guys. Repping the Mets, repping the Knicks tonight, but it's the orange and blue. But yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm Brandon, Braves fan, representing the ATL. Six straight division titles, going for a seventh this year. So glad to be on with you guys tonight.
What's up, guys? Ryan, Philly transplant here. The true owners of the NL East over the last couple of years when it matters. So we'll just get on into that and see how things go. But happy to be here.
Awesome. Hey, what a great start. We're already getting started here in this podcast, and it's going to be a rich podcast. So on this one, since it's the new year and we're just we have the Phillies guy now on the podcast. Let's just recap what's been going on. But I guess we'll start with you, Brandon. You guys got the recent trade with Chris Sale and stuff like that, re-signing him, which annoyed me. But I'll let you talk about it.
Man, I tell you what, guys, it's been the busiest offseason for the Braves that I can remember since we sold everything to rebuild. And so, man, it's been really busy, but a lot of moves that go under the radar. But Alex Anthopoulos is doing something. You just don't know what exactly. So what happened was he offloaded this fall, offloaded a ton of pitchers who you guys know, as you go through a rebuild, you accumulate a lot of pitching. You never have enough pitching. And maybe one out of every 100 works out. And so that's kind of what happened is we just did a lot of offloading, kind of set up for the first big move, which was Kelenic. And so he came over from Seattle in a big trade. The Braves landed. Braves got 6 years of control with him. So it's pretty exciting. They got their guy is going to be there till 2029, and so 2030, and so he's going to play left field. And so the big talk was, okay, well, he's going to come into camp, play left field. The Braves like his numbers. When he wasn't kicking water coolers and breaking his foot, they liked his numbers otherwise. But the big talk was, what are you going to do with Vaughn Grissom? Vaughn Grissom, top prospect in the Braves organization, position player. The Braves have all their players locked up for the next 5 to 10 years. So there was nowhere on the field to play this dude except for left field. And then they go out and get Kelenic. And you don't make 20 moves to get Kelenic, to have him compete with Vaughn Grissom. So they were saying there's going to be a competition in spring training, but nobody really bought that. And then you wake up one day and you find out Vaughn Grissom is headed to Boston, and Chris Sale coming in to Atlanta, which is a really big deal. And so, yeah, here's why this is it's magic. I don't even know how this happens other than the GM's got to have a bunch of dirt on these people to make these moves happen. Chris Sale comes over from the Red Sox. The Red Sox also send cash in the deal. $17 million is what they send the Braves in this deal. Well, Sale had an option for the next year. And so what the Braves did is they went ahead and extended him to get 2 years, a 2-year contract with a third-year option. And Chris Sale had deferred money. So the Braves were going to be paying him nothing, basically, or $500,000 this year, and then $500,000 a year for the next 10 years or something like that is what the Braves were going to end up paying Chris Sale. And so what they do is extend him. He's going to make $17 million this year, which goes away because of the money that Boston sent. So what's crazy is Chris Sale is pitching for free in Atlanta this year. On top of that, now they're going to pay him $20 million next year which is what they were paying Charlie Morton. And so Charlie's probably going to retire at the end of the year. So the Braves stood pat financially. They literally added zero payroll by getting Chris Sale, and they gave up Vaughn Grissom to do it.
Yeah, and you
Yeah,
talked
and
about it too. You talked about how you wanted to get rid of Vaughn Grissom on our last episode of that Friends of the NL East, and you got your wish. You got what you wanted, and the Braves did too. They ended up not having to pay a thing to get this a pretty solid rotation. Heading, I don't know how much he's going to play to start the year because I imagine he's probably going to have some limited innings at least to start because you know that the Braves are going to try to save him for the playoffs. Their biggest crutch. They've had all these 100-win seasons and they've had great seasons, but they just can't pull it off in the playoffs. And that's what I saw this move as being, is just a move for the future and not for the regular season.
Yeah, no, Vic, you're exactly right. I mean, I will say it's not that they can't get it done in the playoffs. We won a World Series 2 years ago. Okay, so they haven't gotten it done in the playoffs in 2 years, which neither have the Phillies. So at least the Braves did finish the job in the last 3 years. So the Braves, like, it's not that, but they are missing that piece. And I would argue this year in the playoffs that it wasn't the pitching that let the Braves down. It was the best offense in the world that quit hitting. And I would say it wasn't the best offense in the world that let them down. I'd say it's the Phillies pitching that was amazing. Wheeler and Nola were incredible. So I don't. I mean, you tip your hat to the Phillies. You say, a 5-game series, man, they outpitched the Braves. But now you got Chris Sale. They don't need him to be the ace. Chris Sale's not the ace of the Braves. They got Max Fried, they got Spencer Strider, both of which have finished in the top 3 Cy Youngs in the last 2 years consecutively. So Chris Sale slotting in number 3. So when you're pitching Chris Sale as your number 3 starter, you're in a pretty good condition. But you're right, Vic. This is all about the playoffs. This isn't about the regular season.
well, and that's the thing. The Dodgers, to be honest with you, have changed the game. You know what I mean? Because of the fact that they're putting out a rotation, right? Kind of like an old school rotation where you had 4 or 5 deep, right? And that's what the Braves are doing. They're trying to keep up with the Dodgers, and with the Phillies. They re-signed Aaron this past off season, but I don't know about you, Ryan. I don't know how you feel about that. Let me know. Did they do enough? Do they need more? I know they were in on Yamamoto, and just like us, lost out on him. But you tell me.
Well, that's the hard part, right? So the Phillies organization has never really had ties to any Japanese players. Yamamoto would have been their first, and I think that's a pretty crucial thing to try and start, because as you can see with Yamamoto and Otani and forget the other guy's name, but there's another pitcher that, I mean, he's not going to garner $300 million, but he's a good relief pitcher, and so by trying to get into that and be able to bring some of that talent to the Phillies, that would have been huge. Um, the pitching was great. The pitching was found, especially late in the season last year. I would say the playoffs, everybody kind of, the Phillies last year got off to just a terrible start. I mean, the same start that they had the year before, and that's kind of what led to them just kind of kicking it into the wild card last year. Um, but with Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, um, with Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, it kind of really, there's not much after that. I mean, Moses Suarez has been great. He's a great left-handed pitcher. Outside of him, we have some really good relievers. They avoided arbitration with Hoffman and Suarez, actually. So I think they need to go out and get a 4th pitcher. Um, and really solidify that back end. They brought Lazard in towards the end of the season, and he had that one no hitter, but then he was absent. That guy, he's great in that one game, but then gone. Um, so I think we need to make another move. I'm hearing Snell is on the table, but he's asking for $240 million guaranteed, which that's kind of a hefty price. He's looking for 10 years, 240 million. I don't know if you're going to get 10 years out of him. That just seems like a high price.
Yeah, no, for sure. And he's the Yankees offered him a 5-year, $150 million contract to Snell, and he said no. So the Yankees went right to Stroman. So, I actually don't think that Snell's gonna get that money. I think he's a little delusional right now because the market is bearing, Imanaga signed with the Cubs and it was smaller than we thought, right? So, he basically signed the same deal that Sean Manaea signed with the Mets, and the whole talk about Imanaga signing was going to be higher because of the Yamamoto signing, and that's not the case. We're seeing that the only two guys that were getting that money was Yamamoto and Otani.
Hey,
Everybody,
Franklin, what did Glasnow get in his extension with the Dodgers?
oh
He got
man,
like 25 mil a year, 4 years, at 25 mil a year, something like that.
So I'm gonna go out and say that's probably what Snell's camp is looking for. So I mean, I think Glasnow is probably the best comp to Snell, even though Snell's been around longer, has more experience, all that. I mean, you're coming off a Cy Young award, so he might be asking for a little bit, But yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what he's looking for, and I think teams are just playing chicken right now for a little bit. So I think you'll see him sign somewhere around a 25 to 30 AAV.
Yeah, and me and Franklin talked about it too. We said that we wouldn't want to see Snell in New York as as good as he is and as many Cy Youngs as he's won. He's just too much of a heart attack when he's on the mound. He doesn't really provide the kind of stress relief that a pitcher is meant to bring, and instead he'll load the bases up and pitch out of those jams. And I think teams are starting to realize that and not want to give him the longevity that he wants. So I do think he'll get the money. I think he'll get 30 mil a year, but I don't think it'll be for the 6 years that he wants. I think it'll more look like 3 to 4 years. And I could see the Phillies doing that because the Phillies are in more of a desperate spot than the Mets are, at least. I don't think the Mets are willing to give him that money, but the Phillies just going to the World Series in 2022 are probably looking for to solidify their rotation just like the Braves did. And seeing that the Braves made that move with Sale, it makes even more reason for them to try to even go out and pick up a big name pitcher like Blake Snell. So I wouldn't be surprised if he signs with them.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not really sure if I want to pay that much, right? I mean, if you think about it, that last series losing to Arizona, it was more so the back end pitching in a couple of those games, and the hitters went silent, right? They lost it completely in Arizona. I don't know if it's because, I mean, they do say that that's a pretty difficult stadium to hit in just because of the backdrops and everything. But I mean, Texas didn't have a problem, right? They went in there and they smoked them. So it all comes down to the end. The players that you're paying $300 million to, and Harper and Turner, have to show up for you in that moment. Wheeler and Nola showed up. They won them their games, and Wheeler came in the seventh inning in relief in Philly to try and help them win that game, and he did what he could. I mean, they got everything that they wanted out of pitching in that final series. It was the bats went cold. Castellanos was hot. He was smashing 2 home runs multiple games in a row, and then all of a sudden he was 1 for 30 in the last series. I mean, you don't really expect that from somebody who, yeah, he bats in the 7th spot, right? But I mean, when you have that kind of production for most of the year, he had 100 RBI season. I mean, you don't expect that from somebody. It's just like the Braves. They all just kind of, I mean, it was probably half the Phillies pitching, but there has to be some blame put on those Braves hitters in that series. I mean, they tied the record for the most home runs in a season, and now they hit what, two, I think, in the whole series, scored maybe 6 runs, 7 runs in 4 games. So it's just kind of hard to do that. Pitching is definitely where I think they should go. But they kind of need to figure out the back end of that lineup. Bohm is in arbitration right now. They're trying to work it out. They're a couple $100,000 off, so they're not far. But if they're not gonna figure this out, they gotta. I think they need another bat, and I think they have some.
Hey Ryan.
Yeah.
Hey Ryan. I saw something on MLB the other day. MLB Network. They were giving out all their projections, the meaningless projections they put out this time of year to just try to get people like us to talk about it when nothing's happening. And they got Bryce Harper winning MVP this year. I don't know, man. He really looked like an MVP when he plays the Braves. Regular season and postseason, it doesn't matter. He was that way with the Nationals too. Does he have another MVP in him, and can he carry the Phillies offense? Kind of like what happened last year.
I think he can. I do, but I think you do need that kind of from him in order to carry this team a little bit. I think he'll do it. I think he'll do it one or two more times. I know there was talks recently too about him possibly wanting to restructure his deal, because I mean he signed for I believe it was 330 million over 13 years. I mean that's a pretty low AV for that. And if you look at what he's getting paid per season compared to obviously Ohtani set the record, right? I mean that's kind of a ridiculous number, but if you're going to get those type of hitting numbers from Harper, which I think he can produce those same, I think he can have 40 plus home run seasons going forward. I mean, he's still in his prime. He's only 31 years old. He's not that old. So I think he can do it. And I think maybe possibly, I mean, he loves the city. There's no opt-outs, there's no trade clauses. He's stuck, right? But I think in order to pay him forward for what he's done for the city so far, and to show him the love that you have for him moving forward, I think they need to come to some sort of deal too, and kind of raise his annual average up a little bit.
They'll probably restructure that contract, but honestly, at the time, it was record breaking. And players don't really care about AAV as much as media does. They make a big deal out of the AAV. They want guaranteed money. So, span it out over 10 years, 20 years. In fact, a lot of players will defer their money even longer. So they're getting less AAV, but they're getting paid more and more. You guys know something about that with Bobby Bowday, right? In New York, you guys are still paying that dude.
Everybody wants to talk about Bobby Bonilla, but as we can see, it's all come to light. Every team does it, and they've always done it. And so, it's no big deal.
Yeah,
I love Bobby Bonilla Day.
It is pay the man. It is so true. And so I do think that they'll do something like that. Here's our other question. Me and Franklin were talking about this offline this past week, but how long are they going to let Schwarber hit lead off, man?
So that's the problem, right? When he bats leadoff, he is an all or nothing. They moved him out of the leadoff spot there towards the end of the season, tried out Trey Turner at the leadoff, and it just didn't quite work right. I mean, over the last 2 years, he's got 104 singles and 94 home runs. I think last year he had more home runs than singles in a season. It's really difficult to do, right? I mean,
He was hitting like under the Mendoza line for like 3/4 of the season.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like in the low ones, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's just pretty bad. Um, but then again, you have a couple games where he does that, right? He strikes out, he grounds out, and then he'll hit a double, and then he'll go a couple more at bats, and then he hits a 480-foot moonshot, and you're like, okay, all right, I get it a little bit. Um, but I think the problem is that power is not consistent enough to be further down. And he's not a contact hitter. He does walk a lot, so that allows him to get on base too. He has a very good eye. So I think batting leadoff is probably honestly where he should be. And I know it's hard to say that because his batting average is so low, but his OPS is up in just kind of normal numbers, right? I mean, it's not super low. He's his slugging percentage is middle of the road, but he's getting on base, whether it's a walk or um, and when he hits doubles or home runs. There's really nothing else that he hits. And
Yeah.
I think the inconsistency is so hard to put him behind anybody because you put him at the 3, 4, or 5, you expect at least one or two guys to be on base at that time. You expect every game. That doesn't happen, but those guys are the guys that are trying to get on base for that power, and his power is so inconsistent. There's no way they're gonna put him back to that.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the thing we were talking about is that I think the baseball game's changing back to kind of a little bit more speed up top. Arizona kind of showed us the blueprint on that, and you have guys like Carroll and Acuna who can also hit home runs, but
Mhm.
also provide the stolen bases. And I think that's where we're heading. Whether they hit home runs or not, I think speed is coming back to the top of the lineup just because of the way they want speed in the game. They kind of created rules for that, and I don't know how long Schwarber's signed for, but I think after the Schwarber deal is done, I imagine the Phillies are going to go a different direction in that leadoff spot.
Yeah, I think
Oh yeah.
Brian put it perfectly though. Schwarber's too inconsistent to put him anywhere else because he can really be a rally killer if you put him down in that cleanup spot or
Mhm.
with two men on base or one bases loaded, 2 outs. You need I could see where the Phillies are coming from, but it just seems like it's not a great fit for where they're at right now. And I know that they are still working on well, it seems like they really do have their lineup solidified now.
Mhm.
But it seems like the Phillies just need more contact guys um, uh, batting in front of Schwarber so that he can clean somebody up at least. Because it seems like uh, that leadoff spot might also just kind of shift the momentum and start the pace of the game with a strikeout, and that could really be demoralizing for the rest of the team.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
that's a good question. Your center fielder, what do you think? He's not much of a batter. Do you think
Uh,
he's going to pull it around?
that's kind of who I was going to talk about is I mean that guy is a baller on defense. He is there he covers the entire center field. He's quick, he's smart, he's on top of it in the field. Um, I think he had 2 hits the entire playoffs last year, which is why he was in the 9 spot the whole postseason. I think if he can turn it around and have a little bit more of that contact, um, I mean, he doesn't need to hit bombs, right? He just needs to get on base, and he's not getting on base, and that's the hard part. Is if he can get on base, he has the speed to turn um, you know, a single into a score from first. I mean, he's that fast. Uh,
Well, and that's the blueprint that Atlanta has. They have Harris, who you think a ball's getting down, and all of a sudden he's catching it. Yeah, same thing with what's the guy from the Phillies? I can't remember. I'm blanking on his name, but
this,
kind of that kind of guy that takes the whole you don't have to worry about Castellanos or Schwarber because this guy got the whole field taken care of.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Rojas, Johan Rojas. Yep, the center fielder. And I think he's going to be good. We'll see, right? I mean, he's got another year. He's on the league minimum. He's called up kind of in the middle of the year to just see, and his defense is the only thing that kept him in the lineup and kept him on the field. And that's what they talked about. You guys asked about Schwarber. He's got 2 years left on his deal with the Phillies. He signed a 4-year deal 2 years ago, so he's got 2 more years. So we'll see. I think they have some good guys coming up in the farm system that I think they're going to do that is going to be able to take that spot. I will say with Harper making that move last year to first base, and now he's going to stay at first. He's not going back to the outfield. I was really hoping that they were going to keep Hoskins, right? Reese Lightning, but it looks like he's walking, right? Like he's a free agent. He's going around, he's talking, he's trying to figure it out. That was probably that other batter that I think they probably should have kept. You've got Brandon Marsh moving to left field, you got Johan Rojas in center, and Castellanos in right. Schwarber's the DH batting leadoff. You don't have a spot for Hoskins unless you send Rojas down and you put Marsh back in center and you move Hoskins out to left, which is where he's played, right? But it's not. He doesn't really have the speed to play left field. In Citizens Bank, you don't have the biggest left, so it's not that you have to worry about that too much. But he is still kind of coming off of an ACL as well. Is he going to be able to play in the outfield? You just don't know. So I would say that was definitely a player that I really liked, and I think he was going to be good, and he's a halfway decent player. But the city loved him definitely for everything that he had done, and that's definitely more of a heartfelt pick than a statistical pick.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So let's transition now. Now that we kind of talked about the past, let's go to the future. Hey, Brandon, what do you think AA's got up his sleeve? Does he have another trick up his sleeve?
Well, guys, I actually left one of the most important deals the Braves made all offseason out. And so as big as Kellenic was, as big as Chris Sale was, the Braves extended Alex Anthopoulos last week until 2031. And so AA is staying in Atlanta until 2031, which is also about the same time that Acuna and Albies will be hanging out in Atlanta too. So, no, he's not done.
Wait a second. Does he have to actually do anything? Because everybody signed till 2031.
Well, in baseball, you get paid for what you did, not for what you're going to do, right? So the Braves are just making up for it at this point. But man, it's because he's just like Stearns for you guys. He's our president of baseball ops and GM. He actually doesn't do as much GMing. He's got other people to kind of do that, but he oversees everything and kind of casts the vision for what they want to do. So even if I thought that he was going to make more moves, it would be a total waste of our time to sit here and talk about what they might be, because he is literally the only person on the planet that knows what they are. The Braves are like the only organization, right, that announces all of their own moves. Nobody, it doesn't leak to anyone. Although I will say this
them
is really
and Shohei.
What's that?
I said them and Shohei.
Yeah, I'm not even touching Shohei, man. He's his own thing. But man, they did these awards when they were doing like the all MLB teams for MLB Network, and they were interviewing Austin Riley. And they were asking Austin Riley, like, hey, who do you want to see Alex Anthopoulos go out and get this offseason? Like who's out there free agent you're hoping Alex signs? And Riley's like, oh, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I've heard about Chris Sale and this was like back in December, right? And so they're like, you mean Blake Snell? He's like, oh yeah, Blake Snell. and then the Braves end up with Chris Sale. So so there apparently are some internal things that they do, but the Braves are so tight-lipped, man. I think we're done. We'll add a bunch of depth pieces. They just got Charlie Culberson, who was a master utility player for the Dodgers and then for the Braves. Great clubhouse guy. The Braves love him. And so the Braves cut him about 3 times. They've DFA'd him like 3 times, but he keeps ending up in the Braves organization because players love the Braves organization, man. They love playing. And so he was like a special assistant last year after being DFA'd, and now he's coming back as a relief pitcher. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. There's some talk, but they're just going to add a bunch of pieces. They might make some moves, some roster moves to try to get a couple of minor league players just to keep the farm up and going a little bit. And the biggest thing to watch out for the Braves this year, though, in the future, is that even though their rotation is stacked, man, they got tons of young guys just waiting. The Smith Shawver, who pitched for us so well down the stretch from AAA last year. Waldrop, who we drafted last year, is expected to make an appearance in the majors this year. And we're getting Ian Anderson back, who pitched in the World Series for us. Man, the Braves and Inoa, Oscar Inoa is coming back too. So the Braves are getting a couple of pitchers who pitched really well for them in years past are coming back from Tommy John this year about midseason. So man, the Braves are pretty stacked depth wise. So I wouldn't expect any more major moves. We'll see how the season kicks off though.
All right, Victor, you let them know. What do you think what do you think the Mets will do? I know there's some rumors about Blake Snell and stuff like that. And I don't want Blake Snell, but you talked about, I won't even throw the bomb yet, but I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, no, I mean we've talked about him before, but the Mets are interested in the former World Series champ, guy that Brandon you probably know pretty well, and Jorge Soler. And it'll be a good pickup for the Mets if they were to pick him up this season. I'm not a huge fan of it just because, like you said earlier, Brandon, we're kind of in a retooling phase, and filling in with these guys that will be on these 1 year, 2 year deals will only do so much for the Mets when we're only playoff hopeful. And so that's one guy that's on our radar, but another guy that we're still hoping on picking up this year is Blake Snell is out there, but man, I'm blanking on the I'm blanking right now. We just talked about it.
Victor, let me ask you a question, man. You and Franklin, do the Mets have what it takes in the farm to make a major trade, like for a Dylan Cease?
That's who I was trying to. I couldn't find his name in my head, but that's who I was mentioning next, and that's who I want the Mets to pick up is Dylan Cease.
Of course you do, absolutely,
because he would honestly solve a lot of problems that we have in the Mets organization, just in terms of pitching. If you listen to any of our past shows, you know that I've just been harping on the Mets to pick up pitching this whole offseason because that's what we need. We have all the bats in the farm system from all of the trades that we did last year, and guys that are coming up soon. And like I said, if we pick up those bats, it'll clog that up. But a Dylan Cease trade, you're not clogging up anyone coming up. You hear guys talk about our pitchers coming up soon, but that's mostly just hopeful. I'm talking about guys like Christian Scott that they see coming up soon. But Dylan Cease being that pitcher that is signed or for at least 2 more years, right? Will kind of give us some insurance because we only have Kodai Senga after next season. Everyone else is off the books. And so going into that offseason next year, if we don't sign anybody this year or trade for anybody, then it's going to be looking very sparse and scary, to be honest, because we're going to be looking to pick up one of your boys, Ryan, and Zach Wheeler, trying to bring him back to the Mets organization. And
you can try, but they're in contract talks to extend him right now.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But it's a big free agent class. It would just be a scary thing to go in trying to fill in 4 spots next season uh, and something that's not solidified. But so those are the moves that the Mets are looking for right now. The past moves that they've made have just been bullpen invites to spring training, and Franklin likes to talk about Jordan Montgomery coming over here. I don't think that's happening. I've already shared my thoughts on that, but if you'd like to share more on Jordan Montgomery and why he's a good fit, then by all means.
Well, it's not that it's that he's a good fit, but he is a good fit. I'm just thinking that the price tags are coming down, and he's not. These pitchers aren't going to get what they were asking for. Everybody thought that Yamamoto and Shohei was going to set the market, and everybody was going to get these ridiculous contracts, and that's not happening. The GMs out there are smarter than all the fans what the fans think. So they're not giving away money just to give away money, and so that's what they're doing. But Ryan, what are you hearing on what the Phillies might do, or what you want them to do to pick up? Let me know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think their pitching is pretty decent. Another starter would be nice. The guy that really had me excited last season and then got injured in training camp was Andrew Painter. The guy that they had just drafted, right-handed pitcher. He was 18 years old, throwing 101, 102 miles an hour. Just had a wicked fastball, and I really liked him. He was really showing some great promise early on in spring training, and then had some feeling in his some issues in his elbow, and then all of a sudden was getting Tommy John surgery. So, what he looks like coming back, I don't know. I was really excited to see him. I think if he can come back and be good, um, I think he takes your fifth spot right there. Um, and so I don't really have. I think if they could pick up another left-handed starter would be great. Obviously you got Wheeler and Nola as right-handers, and then you got Suarez as your left-hander. Um, but then they have quite a bit of left out of the bullpen. You got um you got oh my gosh. I just watched this guy go crazy. I'm blanking on names right now because apparently I can't think of Phillies players' names. But I think I I think I'd like to see them go out and get a good contact hitter and set guys up early on. I'd like to see Schwarber drop down. Obviously, the inconsistency is the hard part, but if you're inconsistent, why are you leading off a game, right? I mean, he can start it off with a home run, but odds are he's not doing that. Maybe he's doing that 40 out of 162 games, which is great, but um, he's not only hitting leadoff home runs every game, so some of his home runs come later. So they might as well be something. Johan Rojas comes back up out of the farm system. I think if he can get that consistency in there, maybe he can be that leadoff guy. Like I said, um, I don't really have any projections. I think for the longest time, having nobody outside of Aaron Nola was kind of what our bullpen was, right? Before Zach Wheeler came in, it was a dumpster fire. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, right? The reason that the Phillies were out of the playoffs for so many years was their pitching was horrendous. And the players that they put on the field too. I mean, they were pretty bad. There were some lineups that we were seeing just 4 5 years ago that were they wouldn't even make it in double A anymore. So I think Dombrowski's done a great job, but I do know that everybody in Philly, especially me, is just itching for something, right? Like we re-signed Nola, great, kept him out of the Braves' clutches. That was If he ended up in Atlanta, I don't think I would ever forgave him for letting him get out of there, right? And then it just would stir the pot again and fire up, the fan base for another hatred of Atlanta, right? You have your guy that you drafted and you raised up, and he had his struggles early on last year, but I think the pitch clock really got to him. They were talking about he was noticing the pitch clock on the opposite side and staying open, which was causing a lot of changeups to hang up over the plate, and guys were just going yard on him early. But then when they kind of fixed that a little bit right before the playoffs, he started pitching lights out, and it showed. Um, so I think it was great for them to re-sign him. I just want them to do something, right? Like, I mean, this has been a pretty uneventful offseason. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with these players. Everybody was waiting to see what Ohtani did, right? And Ohtani signed his $700 million contract, but no one else is going to see that kind of money, right? Like the $300 million is scarce. Yamamoto got that, right? But how much of his was deferred? Did they ever come out and say how much of that was
Yeah, none
was
of it.
deferred? None of it.
Yep, he's getting paid all of his contract. Yeah, just because he's a young guy, so he
Right.
doesn't really want to. He doesn't have the deals that Otani has to be able to
That's true.
defer that contract.
That's
But
true. He's more
I
hate.
thought I thought the Mets had it bad with all the moves that they'd like to do, but I try to look up Phillies rumors and stuff like that, and it seems like they're not even active in the free agent market or the
Well,
trade market.
No.
this is what I'll say. This is what I'll say about the Braves is that with the exception of the World Series, whenever they've gone to the playoffs and they've been out, whatever it was that they felt cost them, that they address it in the off
Mhm.
season, like, and they go to drastic lengths. And for example, I remember the year before the World Series, it was the bullpen. I mean, there just was no depth in the bullpen. And so guys were getting hurt, and it cost us in the playoffs against the Dodgers, I think. And it was so Alex Anthopoulos went out and dropped coin on the bullpen, man. And he was quoted at the end. They were like, "Hey, you did a lot in the bullpen." And he was quoted. He said, "I'll never get caught with my pants down again when it comes to the bullpen." And man, he hasn't. That bullpen this year is stacked. And he did the same thing with the starting rotation this year. He really felt like the starting rotation is what lacked depth and was to blame for the loss against the Phillies. So he went out and addressed it. So I feel like you need that though, Ryan, for your fan base. Like even if you like the team you enter into the season with, that's good. Everybody does, right? That's why they're on your team. Like you like your team, but to go out and not address anything, like the Phillies can't do anything better than Schwarber at leadoff.
Right.
Like, of course they can. So I think just to do nothing, I'd imagine for the Phillies fan base is really frustrating.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be anything big either, because you talked about some of the moves that the Braves made, and they were nothing super critical. Obviously, Chris Sale is a big move, but he's not moving anybody at the top two of your
Mm-hmm.
starters. And you guys didn't go out and sign a closer that year that you guys picked up all those bullpen pieces. And so, yeah, I hear what you're saying here, and I can't imagine how you feel it because, like I said, I'm frustrated as a Mets fan with the Mets not picking up anything more than Luis Severino and a couple of trades here and there.
Well, that's a great point. It doesn't have to be a big move because the biggest move that the Braves did, and people don't even talk about it really, is the shortstop, right?
Mhm.
That wasn't a big move. That wasn't a big move,
Mm-hmm.
and it solidified their defense to trade Grissom and to move on from Grissom to get Sale, and that move was, I mean, nobody even talked about it when they did get him. You know what I mean? So it doesn't have to be like Victor, like you said, Victor. It doesn't have to be this big move because Arcia, right? The shortstop.
I just want to remind you guys too that he did sign an extension when he came to Atlanta. I know you're shocked by that, but just a measly 2-year, $4 million extension for an all-star shortstop, and but pretty incredible. But you're right. What it did is it shored up another position player and allowed you to take a top prospect that most organizations couldn't do without and flip it around and make an incredible deal. There's now that left field is shored up for the next 6 years. There is not a single position in the next couple of years in the position players that the Braves have to worry about. They're all signed long term. All nine.
Yeah, and that and that's the whole thing with the non-big moves is that we might see these moves and we might think it's not a big deal. Mets this year, I say they almost did nothing, but because all they did was little moves. But who knows how these pitchers are gonna turn out and stuff like that. So, but I'd be remiss if I don't bring up a pitcher that Victor brought up a couple episodes ago, and I want to get y'all take on it. Is he wanted the Mets to sign Trevor Bauer, and I was like, no way, Jose, not gonna do it. Don't want him on the team. He's a cancer, whatever. I don't want him. But let me hear your take on it. Ryan, let's start with you.
So oddly enough, I kind of have been following the Trevor Bauer saga, I guess, as you will, over the last couple of years. I think yes, he could possibly be a problem. But I mean, at the same time, if you're looking for, well, I guess if you're looking for that fifth pitcher, maybe he would be a good spot. I mean, he's lost a little bit. I know he played in Japan for a little while and he did okay. His stats weren't blowing anybody out of the water. So would he be a possible starter? Sure. You're not going to get much out of him. As far as a cancer to the locker room, I think everything that he's gone through over the last couple of years has really calmed him down a lot. I mean, he was pretty wild there for a while. Just kind of aggressive and hostile to his teammates, and I'm the best kind of, right. And so I think everything kind of humbled him a little bit, and I think he's a different player than he was. That being said, with him not being the same player that he was, he's not as good, right? I just think he's lost a little bit of something. That's kind of up to the GMs. That's not my spot to hire or sign anybody. But I'd like to hear what you guys said. I don't know if I would want him on the Phillies roster, if that's what you're asking, right? I do think that the chemistry that the guys do have on that team is very close, very tight knit, and very, very good. And someone like that could possibly ruin that. So I don't know if I would want them, but I would maybe. I'd like to hear what you think. I mean, I don't know if you've been following them a little bit or not.
So I don't want him. I think he's a bad dude. I think he'll I know he may. I think the whole calming down is a show. You know what I mean? Because he wants to get back on the MLB team. Brandon, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, no, I agree with Ryan, but this is the way I look at it. Me personally, no, I mean, I'm not touching that dude like with a 10-foot pole. So, like, it's just the drama, and because see, he was this way before all of those accusations came out. Like, he was a media circus before then. So even if he shores up that part of his life, he's still a media circus. It's his brand. So at this point, he didn't even want to play baseball because he cares about baseball. It's all about the Trevor Bauer brand. And so like he only wants to play baseball or even just be relevant in baseball because it increases his brand. So like even us sitting here talking about it right now is increasing his brand. So that's all Trevor Bauer cares about. He didn't care about throwing a pitch. If he did, he'd be out there doing showcases for teams. And I'll just put it to you this way: teams are not moral beings. Like we are, we cast judgment, right? And be like, man, what the dude did was horrible. Even if he didn't do it, to even be in that situation was jacked up. He was clearly not focused on baseball like, you would expect him to be making $40 million that year. And so teams don't care about that. If you can pitch and they think you can make their team better, they're going to keep you. This is what Braves did with Marcell Ozuna. I mean, Marcell Ozuna got arrested, DUIs, served a domestic abuse suspension. And the Braves kept him, and he was hitting like 100 or something. And then he turned a corner and finished top 10 in MVP. If the teams think that you can contribute, they are not moral. Like they don't care about that. Fans care about that. Teams don't care. They care about bottom lines. They care about winning. They care about ticket sales. They care about money. So if there's a team out there that thought they could make more money, drive up ticket sales, and win a World Series with Trevor Bauer, he'd be getting his bags packed, getting ready for spring training right now. What it tells me is there is not a team that he's either not showcasing or there's not a team that's looked at him showcasing and thinks that he can make their team better.
All right, Victor, what's your case?
Well, you guys are gonna make me sound like I'm defending Trevor Bauer and whatever he's done. But I want to get this out the way. I'm not. I don't agree with anything that he's done, or not just in the public eye, but behind the scenes as well. But the reason that I brought him up before was because he's a pitcher that just won a Cy Young 2 years ago, or no, I guess it's 4 years ago now, three, in 2020. And he's been in the lab and he's been working hard, and his velo is actually up on his velo's up, and so he's a better pitcher than he was then. And why not give a shot to Trevor Bauer on a 1 year deal? Because the Mets are not in a position where they are just comfortable in pitching and can just go this year and feel comfortable about the rotation that they're putting out there. And I did watch his interview on WFAN, local New York radio station, and he kind of came out and apologized for everything that he did and tried to make a good public image. And I'm not using that to say that he's changed or that he's a better person now because of all that, although he might be. And I hope that he learned from his mistakes and addresses the media in a better way and carries himself better and handles himself behind the scenes better. But all that to say, I don't think he'll be the cancer that you guys are saying he will be in the locker room. I think if he does get signed to a deal with any team, not the Mets, if it's with any team, then he's going to have a prove it year. And that's not saying prove it on the mound. That's saying prove it everywhere you go. You have to make media appearances look really good. You have to show your teammates that you're there for them and not just for yourself. And you have to show that you're a changed person. Because like Brandon said, this isn't the first time this has happened with players. With criminal investigations like this, you saw it happen with Marcell Ozuna on the Braves, but you also saw it with Domingo Germán and on the Yankees, and he got praised this past season for throwing a perfect game. And if Domingo Germán, who was not just accused, but was I can't find the word, but he was he was basically prosecuted for his crime, where Trevor Bauer kind of just was I don't know if he was charged for any of that. It doesn't matter, but if he can turn that around and make a career for himself, then I think Trevor Bauer might be able to make a second wind of his career as well. And I wouldn't mind it starting with the Mets giving him a 1-year deal and giving him a chance to see what he got.
Nope, not hearing it. Don't love it. Not gonna happen. And I got Jim Bowden actually came out and said that no GM is even talking to him. Like I think he is blacklisted on all the MLB, regardless of, because you're right. These teams aren't moral. They want to win, or at least the appearance of winning, and so they're not going to touch him. But I'm never gonna say never because I've seen surprises before. But y'all, I think we're good there, man. I think we have a good show. I think we're gonna end it there. But before we get out of here, hey guys, say your last words. Let's start with you, Ryan.
Oh, I would say that I think this year I'm really looking forward to the battle that is going to be between the Braves and the Phillies for the NL East. There is no other contender, I will say. And I'm excited to see how the season goes. Definitely, I haven't followed it super close in the last several years, but it's kind of reawoken something in me to keep on this team and keep seeing how this is going. But I enjoyed sitting down with you guys and talking baseball. It's always fun to kind of chop it up and see what other guys' opinions and things are about baseball that themselves. So I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Brandon, what you got to say?
Yeah, man. No, looking forward to a great season, man. I just can't wait for January to be over, so we can start talking about pitchers and catchers reporting. It's gonna be really great, man. From the Braves standpoint, man, looking forward to an exciting season. I see no reason why Acuna can't repeat for MVP. So that's kind of where my eyes are this year. I kind of would love to see that for him in the prime of his career after tearing an ACL. So, he's just so ho hum now that we forget to talk about him, but truly a beast, man. So I'm just looking forward to baseball and looking forward to seeing Ronald Acuna back out on the field. But man, love our conversation and love a way to make baseball exciting when it is not exciting right now.
That's for sure. Hey, Victor, what you got?
Hey guys, less than 72 days, or there's around 72 days left till opening day. That's, 3 months, 3 months away. So I can't do math, but I'm ready for it. I'm just ready. You see, the baseball withdrawal is getting to me, and it's making me delusional.
Start the countdown, Vic.
But I've been counting down since 100 days. I'm ready for baseball to start, and I think you guys are going to be surprised what the Mets are be able to put out there.
I think we will.
Yeah, absolutely. So
We'll be very
hey guys. Hey guys, well, hey, don't forget to like, subscribe to this video, comment, let me know what you think. Hey, Philly fans, give me a comment. Brave fans, give me a comment. Met fans, you already know what to do. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button. Hey, let's go Mets. Peace.
Let's go Mets.